Hello, friends. We're going to talk through our notes on patterns of evolution. This is the second concept within our evolution unit. Um, this one is a little bit quicker. We're really just going to talk through some different examples of evolution, specifically the different patterns. Oops, too far. This is going to go a lot quicker than the last set of notes, which were very, very dense. But we really want to know these terminologies. These are going to come up a lot, and so it's very important. So the first one we're going to talk about is something called speciation. In evolution, speciation is when a new species forms through evolution from a pre-existing species. But before we can talk about a new species forming, we want to know what a species actually is. And that's a group of organisms that can successively interbreed and produce viable, fertile offspring. You can't just have a baby be born. That baby then needs to be able to make babies of its own, and that's what distinguishes a species as its own. There are plenty of animals that can interbreed that do not make offspring that can then make offspring. The one that sticks to my head is donkeys and horses can technically interbreed with each other and they create mules, but mules are not able to then create their own offspring. So, in order for speciation to happen, something has to isolate the populations from each other, the original population and the new species that's forming. Some form of a barrier or a roadblock that has stopped the two populations from mixing together. And that makes the gene pool gradually become different. And eventually, these two new species are no longer able to reproduce. The old species and the new species are not able to reproduce with each other. And that's what, at this point, these two groups have become different species once they're no longer able to reproduce viable, fertile offspring. And this doesn't happen just like overnight, and it doesn't happen 24/7. It happens a lot, but like it takes years and years and years and years, along with it doesn't happen to every animal species out there. The second type of patterns of evolution we're going to talk about is extinction, which I'm assuming you know is the elimination of an entire species. Most commonly, when we think of extinction, we think of the dinosaurs. They had mass extinctions that happened um, millions of years ago that wiped out the whole, um, all the species of dinosaurs at one time. But there's also a gradual extinction. This occurs at a very slow rate over a lot of years, and normally this is changes in climate or a natural disaster causes this type of extinction. There's some evidence that it's currently happening right now with how the climate is changing in the world, and there are a lot of species that are dying out right now. And then, like the dinosaurs, there's also mass extinction. This is when a catastrophic event changes the environment suddenly. So, in the case of the dinosaurs, the most accepted theory is a asteroid hit the Earth, and that caused um, crazy amounts of climate change, like um, temperatures dropped because of stuff in the atmosphere, and it wound up wiping out all the large animals. But it could also occur with volcanoes or even tsunamis sometimes. Not the tsunamis that we've seen recently, but like larger tsunamis can cause catastrophic mass extinctions in the world. And if you noticed, speciation and extinction are kind of the opposite of each other. A lot of these are going to be play like that. You're going to have one versus the other. The next form of evolution we have is something called gradualism. This is a slow, constant changes over a long period of time. Sometimes this could take thousands of years. Sometimes it could only take 100 years. And the best example of this that we've actually seen in recent history is with these peppered moths. If you look at this picture, you can notice how the moths kind of blend in with the background. And what happened was, in recent history, trees and bark started to get darker because of the Industrial Revolution. That created a lot of pollution and smut and um, debris that had formed on the outside of trees, and it darkened the tree colors. And so moths, which are naturally found in all different colors, um, started to get darker because the moths that were darker, that were able to blend in better with the darker trees, were able to then reproduce and create babies, while the lighter ones were the ones that were being seen by predators and being eaten, and so they were not reproducing. So that's gradualism more recently. We also have punctuated equilibrium. I'm going to say it like that again, punctuated, because it's a burst of change followed by periods of stability. So in this one, the example is the changes in the mammal population during the Mesozoic and Paleozoic eras. That's when the five of the largest mass extinctions happened, is during those two um, geological periods, and the huge amounts of extinction, and then just gradual going about everyday life until the next one happened. Um, and so it's like giant amounts of species dying, and then anything that's left just went back about its life. All right, these last three are the most important. I think they're going to come up a lot while we are talking about evolution. So we're going to start with divergent evolution. And this is when a number of different species all come from one common ancestor. So looking at this picture, there is an ancestor between bears and apes and elephants and koala bears. We all share a common ancestral um, mammal that we all came from. But because of living in different environments and traveling across the world, um, differences have evolved in each of these populations of animals and created the variety that we see now, in order to better fit where they live and what food sources they have and how do they survive. And this is another type is called adaptive radiation. It's a form of divergent evolution, and this can occur on a very small scale over a shorter period of time. Normally, that's with like when not so much in like a lifetime, but like if there's a change in the environment, sometimes the species are able to adapt, and the ones that are best fitted for the new environment are the ones that are going to survive. Okay, now we have convergent. It's the opposite of divergent. That's when unrelated species, so no common ancestor, become have similar characteristics because they've lived and grown in a similar type of environment. So I think the best example of that is animals that can fly. So I got three examples here. I have a hawk, a bat, and uh, a pterodactyl. I don't know why I just drew a blank on what that was. All three of these animals are are animals that can fly, but they're not related at all. And that's because they've all adapted to their environment to create a similar um, mechanism, like flying, um, even though they're not related to each other. And then finally, we have coevolution, and that co word meaning together. And this is when two populations of organisms form a specialized relationship and thus change in response to each other. And the best example of that is flowers and the insects that pollinate them. Flowers and like butterflies or flowers and bees evolve together in order to continue being able to help each other, like feed the bees, but also help to pollinate and reproduce the flowers. So they rely on each other in order to sustain their everyday lives. All right, if you want to finish up the summary on the bottom of this page for me, explain the differences between speciation and extinction, between gradualism and punctuated equilibrium, and then between divergent and convergent evolution. I would appreciate that. And have a great day.